Hello, I'm Lily, and this is the Lily Untangled Knitting Podcast. I'm going to do a little introduction to me and to my knitting journey here. And this is, again, a little intro episode. If you would like to skip ahead to all the knitting, please go to episode 1. I will be in the same garb, and it will detail everything I have finished in the last month or so, and what I'm working on and what my plans are next. And if you would like to stay and learn a little bit about me, then let's hang out for a few minutes and chat. So as I mentioned, my name is Lily. I live in Oakland, California with my 2 hilarious and wild and beautiful children, my 5-year-old daughter and my 2-year-old son, and my also wild and hilarious and beautiful husband. I'm originally from California. I'm from Southern California, a little town called Ojai, but I spent a long time on the East Coast and in London, which is where I kind of revisited knitting at a couple different points. I came to knitting through my grandmother, my dad's mom, who is still an incredible maker, a prolific knitter, and she is 90 years old and doing great. And in fact, I get to see her in just a little while, so I'm very excited about that. My grandma Lynn taught me when I was quite young, and then another friend of mine's mother was also very active in the knitting community when I was a child, and she helped my friend and I with some knitting projects, and that was always really fun. And I have a very distinct memory of of course for me, blue-green jumper that I made with her. I think it was pretty scratchy though, like really scratchy. I'm not sure if I actually ever wore it, but I did make it and I was quite proud. And that was when I was probably 12 or 13. I didn't really knit in high school or college, and then I moved to London and to New York City for grad school, and I was cold. I was very cold. And I know there are a lot of knitters who love the cold, who embrace the cold. I watched Andrea Mowry's beautiful podcast about hoping and wishing for the fluffy flakes, I think she calls them, her winter hunt. I don't feel that way. I don't enjoy being cold. And so for me, I really took to knitting because I was cold. I took to knitting and Bikram yoga. I did both. That was kind of how I spent every winter that I lived in New York. And I was very, very lucky. Because I lived for a while when I was in New York, very close to the original Purl Soho location on Spring Street. So I walked in cold and I walked out a knitter, an accessories knitter. I really was just knitting things that I could bundle up in. So I made many hats, I made many scarves. I never got into shawls. I just wanted something really thick and large around me at all times. I made a lot of fingerless gloves. I made a lot of like leg warmer type things for my hands and my feet. Lots of tubular knitting, I'm realizing. And nothing that required seaming. No garments really of any kind. I was very focused on accessories that would stop me being cold. And that was kind of it. I kind of let knitting go for a while again. And then for my 2 little ones, I started knitting again, mostly doing very simple blankets. Each of them have a blanket that I made for them, and also some hats. I love a baby hat. They're so cute. And really, though, my knitting kind of renaissance, as I call it, started when a lot of folks did, I believe, during the lockdowns for the COVID pandemic in 2020. And I was so kind of busy and consumed. I was having a hard time with anxiety, and I had at that point a 6-month-old and a 3-year-old, and I just felt like I needed to make something. And I was very lucky. There was a new shop that had just opened in my hometown in Ojai, where my mom had gone, and she was really getting excited about the idea of knitting and about doing some knitting work. And I just kind of walked in and found a sweater, and it was just like, let's do this. And so my first sweater was a kind of giant all over colorwork sweater, which I'll link down below. It was a really fun project. I was totally in over my head, but I had lots of help, and I had a great time. It was also my introduction to a new way of thinking about fibers, a new way of thinking about yarn, and my introduction to knitting Instagram. So it was a really special moment, and I'm really grateful. Unfortunately, that shop is closed, but I think the community that they spurned, and particularly the inspiration that they brought, was really really beautiful, and I'll always be grateful for that. That was my first sweater of, I guess I finished it in 2021, but it was not my last. And I embarked on a bit of a whirlwind. I just dove in headfirst to all sorts of knitting projects and had so much fun with them. I also really felt like I needed to kind of organize these projects. In my professional life, I am an art curator, and right now I work mostly with private collectors or artist foundations in the States. And my job, in addition to kind of offering all sorts of kind of installation and visual advice, is also to help folks understand and organize what they have. So that's a real passion of mine, and it's something that I'm really excited about putting into the world as well. I was able to develop a system that is based on my art cataloging system, and I just love it. It's how I organize all of my knitting projects now, and that is the Untangled app. So that is a little bit about me and about knitting, and I think I will keep this as its own little intro, and I'll do a little cut here and talk about what I'm wearing, what I'm doing, what's happening next. And that will be episode number 1. So thank you, and let's begin.